All right, Oren, I'm recording in 5, 4, 3.
Hey everyone, this is Oren Weisfeld, the author of The Golden Generation, How Canada Became a Basketball Powerhouse. Making my Toronto Mike debut. Very excited to be here, where we are going to count down the top 10 Canadian basketball players of all time. Let's do it.
What up, Mike? Toronto. VK on the beat.
Oren, I'm excited.
I'm in Toronto.
Top 10 Canadian basketball players of all time.
I'm getting excited. This theme song it gets you going.
Welcome to episode 1806 of Toronto Mic'd. Proudly brought to you by retrofestive.ca, Canada's pop culture and Christmas store. Great Lakes Brewery. Order online for free local home delivery in the GTA. Palma Pasta. Enjoy the taste of fresh, homemade Italian pasta and entrees from Palma Pasta in Mississauga and Oakville. Blue Sky Agency. Ask Doug Mills about how Silent delivers the space to focus, collaborate, and recharge. Nick Iones. He's the host of Building Toronto Skyline and Building Success. 2 podcasts you ought to listen to. Kindling. Go to shopkindling.ca for free 1-hour cannabis delivery. Recyclemyelectronics.ca. Committing to our planet's future means properly recycling our electronics of the past. And Ridley Funeral Home. Pillars of the community since 1921. Today, making his Toronto Mic'd debut, it's the author of The Golden Generation, How Canada Became a Basketball Powerhouse. It's Oren Weisfeld. So, Oren, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing well. I've been on a little bit of a GTA tour recently.
What does that entail?
It entails a lot of podcasting these days. A lot of it from my own abode, but also, moving around the city a little bit, going to different studios like this, radio shows, YouTube shows, and written pieces too, just to try to get the book out there as much as possible.
I wonder how many podcasters are such a complete asshole they make you visit the studio, and how you feel about that, because I literally just had a chat with somebody who said Rain Maida's doing this War Child thing, which is cool. Rain Maida, lead singer of Our Lady Peace. Are you an Our Lady Peace fan?
A little bit, actually.
A little bit, okay.
It used to be a little bit, yeah.
Back in the day. And, thank you to Bob Willett, who hooked me up with this PR person. And I tried to get Rain down here next week, which would have been cool, because when his wife was over here, she had a great time and promised to bring him. But, I'm still waiting, right? I'm waiting by the door. And then at not the last second, but then suddenly it was like, okay, he's not doing anything this day because this is the day of the War Child thing. But on this day, he's happy to Zoom with you for an hour. Mm-hmm. And I politely declined. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So I want you to know, it's not just the Oren Weisfelds. I'm saying no to Rain Maida from Our Lady Peace, who wanted to Zoom in, because I'm willing to wait for his in-person debut.
For the record, I never wanted to Zoom in. I guess I'm old school. I appreciate the in-person stuff. I used to have a radio show back in the day, and it was all before COVID, so I guess we didn't have the Zoom capabilities. And there's definitely a different feel, I think, to getting someone face-to-face with you. Nowadays, a lot of it is over Zoom, and for the practicalities of doing a book tour promo, sure, it is nice to do some of them from home. Right after I did my book launch, I immediately got sick, so it was very helpful in that case to do a bunch of them from my bedroom. Right. But in this case, I appreciate the people who do enforce the in-person stuff. It's fine. When
you alluded to this radio show, where would we have heard this radio show?
You probably wouldn't have. It was when I was at Western.
Pirate Radio? What's going on?
No, it was at Western University. Oh, yeah. Okay, so they're the student radio station there.
Okay, my co-host on Saturday, this is a quick segue to tell you another benefit to coming in person, which is you're going to get some free shit here. But my co-host is a gentleman I call Elvis, and he cut his teeth doing radio at Western too.
Oh, that's funny.
So it's kind of a good place to put in some reps, I guess, when you're a student at Western.
For sure. I mean, I had a show there called Mustang Nation, where we just interviewed athletes around the Western community. And then I also worked for the paper, the Western Gazette. So that was where I got my start. And yeah, you're doing a good amount of unpaid labor, but that's how it is back when you're starting out. And I got to learn the ropes. Certainly doing live radio especially was a bit of a thrill too. Anything live, yeah, you feel like
it's exciting, right?
Yeah, it is exciting.
And there's no safety net. Like even this, like you can say, oh, Mike, if you can edit this, like I don't edit this. So it's live to tape, and we are live streaming at live.torontomike.com, but there's no safety net. Like if you say something really stupid right now, it's in there, man. It's baked in.
Good to know.
But you won't be doing that, which is unfortunate. But I'm going to play a minute of something that's going to kind of get us started here off the hop here. But here's about a minute. And it's very visual, but let's listen.
Frank! No, Frank, don't carry it. Dribble it! Frank, dribble it! Frank, shoot!
Is this some kind of Canadian joke, sir? I mean, I know you're the instructor and everything, but we can't carry the ball. How can we get a decent shot at the peach basket?
All right. Maybe we can allow a carry of a couple of steps.
And Mr. Naismith, sir, it sure slows things down having to climb up here every time.
Well, then let's cut the bottom out of the basket.
But I need these baskets back.
100 years after James Naismith from Almont, Ontario invented it, basketball was being played by hundreds of millions of people around the world.
It's our game, man.
It's our game. What is that from?
It's one of the Heritage Minutes. These were a bigger deal, I think, in the 80s. You don't know the 80s, but I can speak from the 80s that these were a bigger deal back then, but we had these Heritage Minutes that would air, and they'd be about like the Underground Railroad or about the Halifax explosion. It was just Laura Secord. These were a big deal back in the day, but that was the one on basketball.
So I'll give a very nerdy anecdote for the diehards that was included in the book that I wrote, which is that, you know, they talked about not being able to cut the holes out of peach baskets, something you would have thought that they would have started right at the beginning. It wasn't. So at the first Olympics where basketball was included was 36, I believe.
And that's Berlin, right?
That's Berlin, Hitler's games, and that was Canada made it to the final, and the main reason they lost to Team USA in the final was because after each basket you would do a jump ball because there was no holes in the basket, so they would reset, and the Americans were taller, so they won all the jump balls.
Very interesting fun fact right there. And so that's 36.
And that's the best Canada has ever done at an Olympic Games, 36.
Okay, well, we're to get going here. So 10 years later, the first ever NBA game is held at Maple Leaf Gardens here in Toronto.
That's right. And that's I ended the book kind of talking about that history of many times we have tried to start pro leagues, pro teams in Toronto, and they have not worked. But obviously the Raptors and Grizzlies came in 95, and now we have the CBL, which I'm not sure if you're a fan of, but I'm very optimistic about the future of that league too.
You're bullish on the CBL. Mm-hmm. Now, that game in 1946, by the way, that's the Toronto Huskies and the New York Knickerbockers, as they were then known, when the Raptors showed up. And again, I think knowing your age, you're too young for this too. But when the Raptors show up in 95, I felt that we should have been the Huskies. I still kind of feel that way, although the name is obviously growing on me. But like, what are your thoughts on the nickname Raptors?
So I thought the WNBA team for sure should have been the Huskies. That was, to me, the more obvious one. But yeah, like you said, I wasn't around back. I mean, I was being born, but at the time
you were conceived
when
apparently,
we were, exactly.
After Damon Stoudemire went off a game for 26 points, I think you were conceived
around that time. So yeah, I wasn't around for the choosing of the Raptors name. I can't speak to that, but I was surprised they didn't really get any play for the Tempo name.
Oh yeah, the maybe it's because Husky has a connotation to it. Maybe it's a bit of a negative connotation when it comes to like body imaging. Like you know, like fat people, and again, much love to fat people. I could be one next year. Stay tuned. But when they buy clothes and stuff, they don't buy like fat people clothes. They buy Husky. Like it's sort of it's code for possibly for overweight.
Possibly, yeah. I think it probably had to do with not wanting to associate with a men's team, but
Right.
Husky is objectively a great name for a sports team.
Yeah.
So
Okay, so
we need one.
and how many seasons did that Toronto Huskies last? Just the one? I think so.
One or two, yeah. Not very long. I mean, the problem was fans. They weren't getting fans out to the games, and we didn't have the culture where people liked going to basketball games. That was the main problem.
But amazingly, that's only 10 years removed from, hey, we have to do a jump ball every time a basket is scored because we haven't figured out how to cut the bottoms out of these. That's kind of amazing how quickly this game evolves.
For sure, yeah. I mean, for Canada, it seems like the evolution was very slow up until, maybe, the Raptors, really. But I get what you're saying. But, it feels like there was very little movement that mattered up until this explosion that happened in the 90s.
Yeah, well, you wrote the book. Again, the book is called The Golden Generation, How Canada Became a Basketball Powerhouse. And I find it interesting. Are we a powerhouse? Well, here's what we're going to do. So let me set the table. In this episode, you, Oren, by the way, is Oren like short form for Orenthal?
No.
So it's actually just Oren.
It's just Oren.
O.J. Simpson was Orenthal James Simpson.
He was. And I shouldn't say this, but I am, my friend's, OJ was a nickname of mine for a long time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
not
before
because
he murdered people, he was kind of a cool cat.
No, not because I resembled OJ in any way. It just, I don't know. My brother's name is Josh. There's orange juice, OJ. I think it came more from that.
And of course, right around the time the Raptors are being born, that's around the time OJ starts murdering.
You have to wonder. You have to
there.
wonder the connection. Yeah.
By the way, I like your jacket. Did you have to buy that jacket, or were you able to be gifted a Raptors jacket?
No, yeah. This is called being a micro influencer. So they gave.
How do I get one?
The Bay. Shout out to the Bay.
Okay.
Yeah, this is a Bay collection that they gave me.
Now, am I right? Again, I'm not going to put you on the spot. Your book's not about this, but I believe that stuff is owned by maybe Canadian Tire. Like, who picked up the Bay intellectual property? Because the Bay is done.
Yeah,
but
I pass. I pass.
I think maybe. Yeah, you pass. That's my department to get these facts wrong. Okay, fact check me, Robert Lawson. But and I'll see you Saturday, Robert Lawson. I got to get back to Saturday. But you're wearing a Raptors jacket. The Raptors have won 8 in a row.
Yeah, the Raptors are great. I mean, I know we're not here to talk about the Raptors, but it would have been a good time too because
you can spend a minute or two now. I've been tuning in, and I kind of thought I had become playoff Mike. Like, I was just going to skip all sports regular seasons. I need high stakes now because I did this with the Blue Jays, and it felt good, like, to just show up when the stakes were high. But I found myself tuning into the last few Raptors games because I'm finding it thoroughly entertaining.
Yeah, they're really good. I mean, credit to them. They turned around that team pretty quickly. And I mean, injection of talent, good amount of depth, young guys getting better. It seems like everything is just going well for the Raptors, which probably won't continue. Like, they are going to hit a rough patch. They're not going to win 70 games this season. But it's fun for the fans who have had a really, really rough 2 to 3 last years. And then Masai going out the door this summer. I had a moment this summer for sure where I was like, oh man, is this team about to go back into the dregs? But no, it seems like the infrastructure Masai helped build is still very strong, and good things ahead, I think.
What do you think about the ousting of Masai?
Very disappointing. I mean, there's nothing like MLSE could point to and be like, see, because the team he built is currently doing really, really well, right? So I think he is a very good person, and it would have been probably ideal to have both him and Bobby continue to run the team, but ultimately it's a money move. Rogers is being cheap, and they didn't want to pay Masai the tens of millions of dollars that he was getting, and so they cut the contract, and they thought Bobby could probably do most of the job himself, and we'll see if that ends up being true, but it's disappointing. I mean, they cut the culture and inclusion team there at MLSE as well. It's not just Masai, actually. It's a lot of like the work that they were doing off the court to help build up communities, to help the Black community. A lot of that has been cut, so it is disappointing for sure.
Yeah, and as you mentioned the R word, okay, Rogers, but it's no coincidence that Rogers has taken over MLSE at the same time. So, and it's pretty well documented that Edward Rogers, not a big Masai fan.
Right.
So I mean, this all, and it is interesting to note what's happening on the ice. So the Blue Jays, which has always been Rogers, well, it's been Rogers' property for a very long time.
Let's talk Leafs. I can't wait.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
man.
no Leafs talk, except that coming out of the World Series, when a lot of Toronto sports fans were kind of jacked, right? We were all amped up. The Leafs were kind of disappointing, right? Just kind of mediocre, and it's like, what is this? You know, without Marner, it just feels like a different team. Oh my goodness, can we even make the playoffs? But then out of nowhere rises like this phoenix from the ashes. It's the Raptors, who go on to win 8 in a row. So, you know, enough Rogers talk. We are going to make a big deal out of this. We're going to unveil your top 10 Canadian basketball players of all time. And it's going to be, we're going to go in like reverse, so 10 to 1.
Okay.
And along the way, that'll kind of tell some of the story that is in your fine book, The Golden Generation, which I thoroughly enjoyed. All basketball fans got to pick this up. Maybe there's a loved one on your holiday list.
Exactly.
It's a good gift, right?
I think so. I think whether or not you're a casual sports fan who just likes to root for the teams when they're in the playoffs, or if you're a diehard Canadian basketball fan, it'll have something for everyone. Really kind of traces back the history of men's basketball in Canada from the 90s till now, and explains the people who are really responsible for the growth. The people who are in the communities building up the infrastructure, and it also kind of goes back and forth between Team Canada, and then between the players that we all know and love, from Steve Nash to Shai Gilgeous-Alexander.
Are you reading that off the back of the book?
No, but I've said it enough times. It's in my head now. It's ingrained.
Oh, you got it nailed down here.
Yeah,
Okay,
thank
so
you.
I'm very excited to do the top 10. Tomorrow, Dave Hodge is in this basement to count down his top 100 songs of 2025. So a
Wow.
top 10 with you is like easy breezy.
Oh, you give him real homework.
When you're Dave Hodge, you get what you want. This is how it works. So what would you like, Mr. Hodge? I want to do 100. Well, you know, it's his idea to do 100
Okay.
songs. I haven't heard 100 new songs in 2025.
Yeah,
Like, have you heard 100 new songs in 2025?
definitely not.
Yeah, so the fact that he's got a top 100, and no artist repeats twice, like, it's a bit of a mind blow. Like, was that much music released?
Wow.
I don't know. Okay, so
Wow.
stay tuned tomorrow for Dave Hodge. We're going to get to know you a little better before we dive into the top 10. But Oren, I'm going to invite you to TMLX 21, which is actually only 3 sleeps away. Let me do the math on that. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Yeah. Saturday, which is November 29th, from noon to 3 p.m., the second floor of Palma's Kitchen in Mississauga. So just Google Palma's Kitchen in Mississauga. Second floor, we're going to be recording live. Again, noon to 3 p.m. Everybody eats for free. Delicious pasta from Palma Pasta. By the way, they sent over a large lasagna. It's in my freezer right now. You're going to bring that home with you.
Wow.
Another reason not to Zoom it, you can get a pasta if you
This
get...
is the best podcast I've been on.
Well, you're going to get more than that. But let me tell you. So Palma Pasta will feed you. This is coming Saturday. What else? I'm going to bring fresh craft beer from Great Lakes Brewery. I'm going to have it on ice. You can grab a can or two for free, but I'm sending you home with some fresh craft beer. So, you got beer and lasagna.
Wow.
I have a measuring tape for you from Ridley Funeral Home. Shout out to Ridley Funeral Home. They have a fine podcast called Life's Undertaking.
Awesome.
So that's 3 great things you've got so far.
I like all those things. Yeah.
I don't have any weed for you, but if you consume cannabis or you have loved ones who consume cannabis, here's your marching orders. Go to shopkindling.ca because you order the weed and it's in your possession in less than an hour. So like we could order now and by the time we wrap, it's at the door and you could track the delivery. It's discreet. I'm telling you,
Times have
shopkindling.ca.
changed. Times have changed.
Times have changed. Absolutely. We're living in a modern era here. So that's what I want to shout out, shopkindling.ca. A couple more quick shout outs. One is I hope to see Nick Iones at TMLX 21. By the way, did I mention everyone listening is invited to this event on Saturday? And it's a free event and you don't RSVP. You just show up. You never know who's going to be there. It's going to be wild to see who shows up. If anyone shows up, but the first 75 people who show up on Saturday are getting a gift from retrofestive.ca. It's a holiday-themed gift, and that's going to be rad. So if you come on Saturday, Oren, you get a gift.
Awesome.
By the way, you can get 10% off your order at retrofestive.ca if you use the promo code FOTM. Doug Mills at Blue Sky Agency did just that because he texted me and said, what's that promo code? And I told him, Doug is the man at Blue Sky Agency. So if anyone listening is looking for creative and dynamic work environments, he's like your office furniture guru, be it like the privacy pods or whatever you require. Have a chat with Doug at blueskyagency.ca. Do that now. And a couple last hits. One is recyclemyelectronics.ca, Oren. That's where you go if you have old electronics, old cables. You go to that website to put in your postal code and find out where you can drop off your cabling, your old phones. How many old phones you got lying around that home of yours?
Maybe one or two. I'm pretty slow with it. I'll really keep it till it's done.
Me too.
Yeah.
One thing I noticed, like I had a phone so old, they said, we don't support 5G on this phone. And if you don't get off this phone, we're not doing 3G anymore. And it's like, that's one way to get people to kind of
They don't do 3G anymore?
Well, at this, wow. I think this came from Rogers and Bell. I'm not sure, but I had to help my mom out with this because her phone, they discontinued 3G, and they said you need a phone that can handle 5G. This is like the order that came down. So go to recyclemyelectronics.ca. That's what you do. Okay, little bit about you, and then we're going to get to your top 10. But the first question I have for you is, like, when do you fall in love with basketball?
Yeah, so I grew up playing other sports. I grew up playing soccer a lot and played some rugby and ice hockey, like any Canadian. And then
you called it ice hockey, which concerns me. Like, it's just hockey.
That's true. This
is an American podcast.
Here's the thing. I do a lot of basketball podcasts, right? So I do have to say ice hockey.
Right.
But it wasn't until high school, grade 9. So I went to Oakwood Collegiate. I'm not sure if you're familiar, but...
Wait, so we got to shout out Midtown Gord, who works there. And remembers
Gord
you.
was I was going to say Gord was my my hall monitor for my time there.
So he's listening now. So shout out to Midtown Gord.
Shout out to Gord. So I went to Oakwood, and it was really there that we had like the best team in the city. We won OFSA, the Ontario Championship, when I was there. And it was just this culture that had been built up for many, many decades where Oakwood just had developed a basketball culture. So after school, a couple times a week, we would all hang out, and then we would go down to the gym, and we would sit there and we would watch the game, the girls team, then the junior team, then the senior team. And it was just like this huge part. Then the next day we would talk about it if they won or lost. It was just a big part of the culture. And I really fell in love with the game, watching it like up close and personal there, watching guys I knew on the team, it was different. Like, I wrote this in the book. It was different than a lot of spectator sports that I had grown up watching, because basketball, it feels a lot more intimate. You're in this enclosed gym. It's sweaty. It smells.
Right.
You see guys yelling. You hear everything that's said on the court. You see how these games can turn into this one-on-one battle. These big plays can completely change the course of a game. So I fell in love with the spectator aspect of the sport, and snowballed from there. And just kind of, when I started writing, I was just like, this is the natural thing I should write about.
So do you focus on the Raptors, Canadian basketball?
When I started writing, it was at Western, and I started writing about all the sports there. And then when I graduated, I started writing for this blog called Raptors Republic, which was focused on the Raptors, and did that. And I started freelancing for a couple of Canadian papers, going to Raptors games, covering the NBA and the Raptors. And I kind of just had this revelation where, there was too many people covering the Raptors. It was a very saturated market, very hard to distinguish yourself or to even come up with story ideas that weren't being done. And B, it was like each game I went to, each year I covered the team, the away team would have more and more Canadians on it. Like, at first when I started, it was like maybe 1 out of every 5 teams would have a Canadian.
Right.
And then it was like 1 every couple teams. And it's just every year there was more guys getting drafted. And so that's when I started diving into the Canadian angle more. I just wanted to understand, like, where did this boom come from? Like, we had only ever had 2 or 3 Canadians in the league for all of history. And then all of a sudden we had 15, 20, 25 this season. And I wanted to understand why the boom, why now, and yeah, so that took me down the road of covering more Canadian hoops.
Can we just shout out some of the other local journalists who cover our NBA team, just a few of them? And I'll start with the names that have actually been on Toronto Mic'd. So I'm going to favor the FOTMs first, and then maybe we shout out a few future FOTMs, we'll call them, okay? Michael Grange.
Yeah, Michael Grange actually is the reason I know about this show. I saw him come on the show, and I listened to that episode a while back, probably
I dig
right?
this
a couple
guy.
of years ago.
Yeah. He's been on a couple of times.
Okay, yeah.
He kicked out the jams. Sometimes people come back. I should start doing more of this, actually. Note to self, do more of these kick out the jams episodes. But Grange came back to kick out the jams. He's a big, what we call a blue head, which is he was a OG Blue Rodeo fanatic when he was going to university out east.
Okay, yeah. Didn't know that, but I know he's a great guy.
I'm here to give you the fun fact.
Very, very nice guy. Has helped me a lot in my career. Gave me a blurb that's on the back of the book, and
right.
He's very supportive of young journalists, which not every kind of old school guy who's really established in the industry is. And so, shout out to Michael Grange.
Shout out to Michael Grange, 3 Point Grange. And Doug Smith, of course, from the Toronto Star, who's, I believe he's been covering this team since day one.
Yep. Doug Smith, also been covering Canadian hoops since the 90s, I believe.
Right.
So he's one of the most
many generations
guys.
of Barretts, okay?
Helped me as well, talking to him for the book, getting some of the background on the Canadian national team. He's definitely an encyclopedia of knowledge with that.
Okay, let's shout out Bruce Arthur.
Bruce Arthur, also talked to him for the book. Big fan of his over at the Star.
Let's shout out fairly new FOTM. I had a good chat with him in 2025. Eric Corrine.
Yep, Eric over at The Athletic. He's also a very helpful guy whenever I need help, and a great writer. Really a big fan of his writing.
Another great writer, in my opinion, who's been over, Blake Murphy.
Blake Murphy, another guy who has helped me. You know, when I started at Raptors Republic, Blake was actually not yet hired at Sportsnet, and he was managing editor of Raptors Republic. So definitely gave me a lot of opportunities, helped me go cover the national team in 2021 in Victoria. So shout out Blake.
Hey, here's a sagey vet who I have over occasionally, Steve Simmons.
Steve Simmons over at The Sun. Yep. Provocateur.
Well, listen, never a dull moment. This is the reason I invite over these Steve Simmons and the Damian Cox is because I find the modern journalists, they're very analytical and very good. But,
safe.
Yeah,
I
very
get what
safe.
you're saying. Yeah.
I like a little sandpaper.
No, I mean, totally fair. And yeah, Steve, I respect what he does as well. I think some of it I don't always agree with what some of these columnists are writing, but the name of the game is eyeballs, right? And sometimes being provocative is necessary.
All right, I'm going to shout out one more name because every time I go to like a 90s hip-hop show, I know I'm going to see him there, and he's going to be wearing his Wu-Tang Clan shirt. But I want to shout out Ryan Wallstatt.
Ryan Wallstatt just wrote a story about the book in The Sun, so shout out to Ryan. Yeah, always a fan. I'll give you some more shout-outs.
Yeah, so give me some more, because I need future FOTMs here. Who you got?
Yeah, we got to get some young folks here.
Kareen's not young enough. Blake Murphy, he's too old now. Who do you got?
You got to have the Hello and Welcome boys on, Will Liu and Alex Wong and Jerome
Absolutely.
Ching. Yeah, that could be a great crossover episode for sure. Raptors Republic guys like S and Samson and Lewis Folk, Lewis Atzman. Yeah, those guys are great. Chelsea Late, who's over at Raptors HQ, Keeks. Yeah, those are a few more Raptors people.
Okay, introduce me to these youngsters. Okay, I need to get these youngsters on the show. I love it. I love the next gen. Okay, so we're about to get into it. I feel like I've pumped this up pretty big time, but I want to know how long it took you to write the book. Like, how long did you work on the golden generation? How Canada became a basketball powerhouse?
So, long answer is like I started. The idea of a book came to me all the way in 2021. I went to Victoria, BC to cover the Olympic qualifying tournament where Canada lost to the Czech Republic. I'm sure a lot of listeners watched that game. It was like this overtime, insane comeback. Canada came back and then they lost. And once again, their Olympic dreams were put on hold. So I was at that tournament covering the team, and that's kind of when the idea started to form. We're like, okay, if this team does ever get over the hump, if they do ever go to an Olympics for the first time since 2000 for the men's Canadian team, then I know people will want to know that story. Like, why did it take so long? Who were the people that pushed them over this edge? So all the way back then, I think I started to form some sort of an idea, and then I really started covering the team more and more. But it wasn't until the summer of 2023, Canada beat Spain in the FIBA World Cup, the Basketball World Cup, and that booked their ticket to the Olympics. They would go on to beat USA in the bronze medal game and win their first medal at a World Cup, but that was the moment when they beat Spain in another incredible game, down 12 in the fourth quarter. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Dylan Brooks really bring them over the edge. So that's kind of when I knew I wanted to write a book. So I pitched the book around then, and it's been a basically 2-year process from the end of 23 to the end of 25.
Do you mind maybe we start with your honorable mentions before we get to the top 10? And I hope you remember what you sent, okay?
Yeah, I got a list.
Let's talk about the honorable mentions. It includes a current Raptor.
So for sure, honorable mentions. I mean, 10 is hard at this point. It was a tough list to crack. A lot of the older guys who you'll hear and deserve a shout out are like Bill Wennington,
Yes.
played with the Bulls, won a couple championships. I think he's on a lot of top 10 lists.
I'm sure he won 3.
Yeah. He also won a gold medal with Canada at the World University Games in 67. Todd McCullough, another big man who played for Canada. And then we have like Stuart Granger from Montreal. A lot of guys who, obviously this is an NBA list, right? Guys who play in the NBA. So a lot of guys also who didn't really play in the NBA much, but were great players, from like Leo Routens to Tony Sims. Guys I didn't include because their NBA careers weren't there, but a lot of old guys to shout out. And then there's the new generation, right? Where like RJ Barrett, Andrew Nembhard, Lou Dort, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, Dwight Powell. Those guys were all tough cuts. And I guess when it came down to it for the 10th spot, I wanted to include a guy who is part of this newer generation.
But you're not going to name him, right? Because I'm going to do like a number 10. I'm going to do a whole thing here, but you're just going to
I won't name him. Yeah, but
I'm
I'm just, the reason all those guys I mentioned got cut is because when I really looked into it, I think this guy has had a better NBA career so far than any of the rest of them, and that's where the lines were drawn.
So you mentioned in that list an FOTM, Leo Routens, the kid from Keele Street. So before I announce number 10 and we get down this list here, can we just spend a moment, because I did read the chapter on him, but like what this meant to Canadian basketball to have a Canadian, a homegrown guy drafted in the first round of the NBA draft?
Yeah, I mean, even before that, he was such a big deal because he was like this Canadian who was highly recruited, more so than almost anyone, not even Canadian, but in general. I think he had like over 100 offers from NCAA schools. Everyone was coming up to St. Michael's College, on St. Clair West to watch him and to recruit him. And he was just this phenom, the youngest player at 16 to ever play for the Canadian men's national team. Yeah, so definitely a phenom. And then it was a big deal when he got drafted in the first round, and he actually got drafted in the same draft as Stuart Granger, another great point guard from Montreal who was on the national team at points. And so it was 2 Canadians in the first round of the draft. That was the first time that had happened. And Leo went on to have a career overseas where he was an all-star in like 3 leagues overseas. Then he came back in 95 to call the Raptors as the original crew there. And then he obviously had, in that chapter in the book, a big part, played a big role as the head coach of the national team in 2005. So yeah, the NBA career kind of wasn't so good because the injuries really got to him. And he's had like 1 million surgeries, 1 million injuries. But regardless, has pushed through and had a really big impact on Canadian hoops.
And I'm just glad that Leo didn't hit his head on the low ceiling here in the TMDS studio. So that's
it is surprising. Yeah.
Well, he's the one who coined this phrase I've been using a lot. Like I always like I did with you. Watch out, the ceiling's going to do a dip. Watch your head. I give that speech to everybody who comes over, even if they're like 5'7". I give that speech. Okay, I'll be giving it to Stu Stone tomorrow. He's 5'7". But Leo's the one who looked at me and said, when you're my height, you're always watching your head.
Right.
So it's a whole different ball game for him. It's us guys who get nailed. All right, my friend, you ready?
I'm ready.
Number 10.
Number 10, we got Dylan Brooks. Woo! Yeah, the ultimate you either love him or you hate him guy. I like him though. I like everything that he brings to the floor. I mean, yeah, when I went down to it, like he has had just a really, really impressive career, and you would not think he would be on this list based on reputation. Obviously, like RJ Barrett has been the one who forever has been billed as this really high-level prospect. But looking at Dylan's career, I mean, he immediately became a starter on the Grizzlies when he was drafted there in the second round. He helped build that team into a perennial kind of Western Conference contender. They ship him off to Houston. Houston becomes really good. They ship him off to Phoenix. Phoenix becomes really good. I really do think like winning follows Dylan Brooks, and it's because what he brings to a team is toughness and defense, and really one of the most versatile defenders, I think, in the world. And I also think I should have said a little bit of criteria here, you know.
Sure.
We're talking NBA career. I'm also, you know, factoring in their peak, NBA peak. And then I'm also factoring in Canadian FIBA international what they've done there. And then impact as well for some guys. But with Dylan, like, what he's done with the Canadian team also helps him get on this list. I mean, he really helped them get over the edge against Spain, and then against USA. He dropped 39 points on the USA, which was a Canadian record. And that was a monumental game. It made kind of, obviously, again, Canada qualifies for their first Olympics in 24 years. They beat USA for the first time in a few decades. And that game also really helped the Americans see their kind of B team get beat by Canada by this guy Dylan Brooks, who they all hate. And that was like a part of the inspiration for LeBron and Steph Curry and all these guys to be like, all right, we're playing in the Olympics.
Right.
We're playing the next year. So Dylan Brooks has had quite a bit of an impact, and he gets my number 10 spot.
So you mentioned the Memphis Grizzlies, and I think this is a good opportunity for me to ask you why you think the Vancouver Grizzlies failed.
I mean, from what I understand, it was an ownership problem more than anything else. But I also think, like, I don't think this is not going to make me many fans over there, but I don't think
they listen over there. They don't like Toronto.
Okay, good. I don't think like BC has like the strongest basketball culture even today. Like even today when people ask me who should get the next NBA team, I point to Montreal. Yeah, I think they have like a really strong basketball culture that could really support a team. And look, like I think Vancouver could probably also support a team now, but when I go there, I don't feel that culture to this extent.
Even though somebody who might be appearing in the top 9 is a BC native.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, there is that, and it's definitely growing, no doubt. And in places like Victoria, basketball has always been huge,
right?
But yeah.
It's just interesting that these. Because, again, I'm older than you, so I remember 1995, and that the two teams come in. You got your Vancouver Grizzlies, big country, Bryant Reeves, and you got your Mighty Mouse, and you got the Toronto Raptors. What a time to be alive. But how one sort of thrived and eventually would actually, spoiler alert, would win the NBA championship in 2019. But the other is sort of a distant memory now.
Yeah, so actually, like, that's a good point to gauge my memory. So I read my friend Alex Wong's book, Prehistoric, which tells the story of the 95 Raptors. And part of that was actually what helped them is they drafted Damon Stoudemire, who was this guy who everyone wanted to watch, who was really easy to root for and was really entertaining. And Vancouver obviously didn't. They messed up their first couple drafts, and that was a big part of it too. Is not being able to become good quickly like the Raptors did. They were reputable very quickly with Mighty Mouse. Vancouver that hurt them.
Number 9.
It's exciting. I got Rick Fox. Number 9.
Do we put an asterisk? I don't know.
Yes, we do. Like, I didn't want to include Rick Fox on my list because, as everyone knows, he's not that Canadian.
Well, he's as Canadian, I feel, as Steve Nash is. Was it South African? Where was he?
Right, he was born in South Africa. Yeah, exactly. And like, that's why I didn't really want to put him on there, but I was trying to be as objective as possible. And when I crunched the numbers here, he did have a very good career, 3-time champion with the Lakers, only played for the Celtics and the Lakers, which is like an incredible career.
What if I would say the two biggest franchises in the NBA.
Exactly. And like a very 12-year career in the NBA, and the thing is that separates him from a guy like Bill Wennington or Todd McCullough is that he was actually like a really impactful player for a very long time. He played a lot. He averaged like pretty good numbers over a long career, and so it was hard to keep him off the list.
Number 8.
Yeah, moving on.
I mean, Rick Fox, because he's handsome, right? But
Right.
and he did suit up, like unlike where Steve Nash would identify as Canadian, not South African, where Rick Fox did
Exactly.
identify as Canadian, even though he was like 2 years old or something when he moved to the States.
And he played for Canada
Yeah, right,
at the
that's a big difference. Right.
94 World Championship. So
Right. So, he suited up
Exactly.
for Canada. So, much love to Rick, but just too handsome, right? Uncomfortable. I think he's a very handsome guy. Here I am, revealing my jealousy here. But let's go back to number 8.
Number 8, I got Kelly Olynyk.
Speaking of handsome guys, what's going on with that flow?
Yeah, we all know Kelly Olynyk. Honestly, like I think maybe one of the biggest accolades on Kelly Olynyk's resume here is that he is the captain of the most talented Canadian teams ever assembled. The team in 23 that went to the World Championship, the 24 Olympic team. Kelly Olynyk is the captain. And I think that speaks to his commitment over time to the national team and just who he is as a player. I mean, he's just always been this incredibly skilled, willing passer, willing scorer, can kind of be the Swiss Army knife that does whatever you need him to do. And 13 years and counting in the NBA.
Wow.
So really good career. And in the book, I really liked his story, diving into like his whole red shirting at Gonzaga and completely reforming his body. And the national team played a big role in that decision to redshirt too. Like there was a story in there how he went to play for the aforementioned Leo Rautins at the 2010 World Championship. I think he was 19 years old, Kelly Olynyk, something like that. And one of the coaches there, Renato Pasquale, offered him like a couple $100,000 contract to go play in Europe because he wasn't getting any time at Gonzaga. And Kelly was considering it, but then he kind of came back and was like, "Okay, I'm not going to do that, but I am going to redshirt, and I know I can play. I just need to tweak a few things." And that decision had really helped him, and he went on to have this incredible career.
Absolutely. And now we're talking about Leo Rautins, a proud man of Lithuanian descent. And I just want to shout out, so my oldest son's very good friend, cousin. So does that connect me to this person? So yeah, my son's very good friend's cousin is Nick Stauskas.
Yeah, Nick Stauskas.
Yeah, I got to stick an S in there. My apologies, but it was fun watching his rise and him make the NBA too.
Yeah.
And he's also of Lithuanian descent. So
Yeah,
that's the connection there. Okay, you ready? Number 7.
Jamal McGlure. The first All-Star to come from Toronto. Obviously, I think he did it 1 year after Nash's first All-Star appearance. But Jamal McGlure was this, 7-footer who grew up in Toronto and went to Eastern Commerce. And nobody thought anything of him. He was this big guy, but he wasn't that skilled. He was really kind of getting by on size. And Eastern Commerce at that time just kind of became this incredible prep school in a public school's body where they did all the things that a prep school does and had early practice and weightlifting and nutrition and tutors. And Jamal got a lot better during his time there. And then he went to Kentucky and he went to the NBA and he was an all-star and he finished his career as a Raptor. And so 12 years in the NBA for Jamal McGlure. The impact he had plays a part in this too. Outside of like the NBA, I think just he was one of the first guys from Toronto to really make it. He's always been giving back in the community. He's a very present person with his foundation, and he's also he's a member of the Scarborough Shooting Stars. So yeah, I think that plays into it too, just his kind of impact there.
So we're about to do number 6, but I want to say I'm thoroughly enjoying this. Like, this is exciting, this countdown of the greatest Canadian players of all time.
It's not an easy exercise, I gotta say. I mean, you're weighing eras, different eras, different impacts. It could be Canadian. It could be in the NBA. It could be FIBA overseas. So yeah, it's challenging.
We'll let the debate begin. And I want to shout out Carl English, okay, who I thought should have been drafted by the Raptors, but wasn't.
He should have been an honorable mention.
Yeah,
he had a great career overseas.
And we don't make a lot of these guys out east, right? Like that's kind of exciting.
Yeah, he came from a town of like 500 people. Yeah.
Okay. Shout outs along the way. Ready? Number 6.
Corey Joseph. Corey Joseph. Yeah, one of definitely my favorite players growing up. Pickering High School legend, won 2 OFSAA championships with his brother over there, and big part of his story is coming up alongside DeVoe Joseph, his brother, who is another great player, and goes to the NBA after just 1 year at Texas, which was a big deal back then. I mean, him and the next guy on our list, they were kind of the first guys to go one and done in college.
Well, do you want to do number 5 and then you can kind of talk about both of them? Okay.
Because I wanted to put them together anyways. Yeah. So number 5 is Tristan Thompson.
Oh, I didn't get to say it.
Oh.
Number 5
is Tristan Thompson.
Didn't we rehearse this?
Yeah, and another maybe controversial figure. Maybe not everyone loves him so much for his off-court antics, but him and Corey Joseph, big trendsetters in Canadian basketball, because they were kind of the first generation of guys to go this AAU route, which is like travel ball overseas, pissed off all the Canadian high school leagues, all the Team Ontario, all of that kind of stuff. But it was the best option for them to get NCAA scholarships, which they did. They both went to Texas 1 year, had really good seasons there. And then they went straight to the NBA. And Corey, was a champion with the Spurs in 2014 and really kind of worked his way from the G League up to being a contributor on that championship team. And then he went to the Raptors, where he had 2 of the best years of his career. Right now out of the NBA, but I think he's trying to work his way back. Otherwise, I think we'll see him overseas pretty soon. And same deal with Tristan. They actually both played in the NBA last season, but are both out this year.
Interesting. It's also worth noting that your number 8, your number 7, and your number 6 all suited up for the Toronto Raptors.
Yeah. I mean, there's a cool history of the Raptors trying to get guys, sometimes not in their prime years, but trying to get some Canadians on the team.
Well, the Leafs did that forever. But go ahead.
Right. But that's why RJ is kind of a big deal. He's actually like this star for the Raptors who's Canadian that we haven't had.
And I was reading today, his injury is it's a mere sprain or whatever. So that's good news for Raptor fans here.
Yeah. So Tristan, real quick, best rebounder to ever come out of Canada, I think pretty easily. And then he helped the Cavs win that title in 2016 when they came down from 3-1, overcame the Warriors,
which was incredible. That was like the LeBron show.
One of the best tight NBA championship finals for sure in history, and Tristan was a big part of it, even though he's a role player. But
I remember that team was depleted, right? So it was like LeBron, if I'm remembering the guy from Australia, what is it, Deladova was on that
with
team. Kevin Love, he was suiting up. But this was a team, I do remember it was rather depleted, and LeBron just puts that team on his back. And the play that's sort of indicative of the whole thing was that where he runs the court to block that shot.
Iguodala, for sure.
Which was just unbelievable.
And the other play from that series, I'm not sure if you remember, is Draymond Green kneeing him in the balls.
Right.
And getting suspended the next game for that. I think that was game 5. He gets suspended game 6. That was a big what if in NBA history.
A lot of what ifs.
A lot of conspiracies with that one, for sure.
I love it. What is your thought? Quickly, we take a quick pause here before we get to number 4.
Yeah.
Some big names coming up. 4, 3, 2, 1. These are big names, obviously. But the great debate, and you're gonna speak from, I guess, seeing footage and reading history books, because you weren't around for the prime time of Michael Jordan's career. But where do you stack LeBron James's career when you compare it to Michael Jordan's career?
See, I usually stay out of these debates because
you can't win this one, right?
And because I wasn't around when Jordan was playing. But I mean,
well, I've seen young sports journalists speaking in documentaries about Harold Ballard, and I'm saying to myself, this guy was in diapers when Ballard died, but here he is.
I was going to say, there's definitely people my age taking very strong takes on the LeBron Jordan debate. I won't be one of them. I don't know what to say. You can have a fair opinion on either side of it.
I watched both men's entire careers, and I was one of those guys who just worshipped the ground Jordan walked on. It was must-see TV. Jordan's playing for the Bulls. That was everything in the 90s. But I believe in my heart of hearts, and I'm no analyst like you, Oren, but I believe LeBron James overall had the better career, is the better player, even if he has 4 rings compared to Michael's 6.
I agree. I think the era he played in was tougher for sure for LeBron. He obviously has that record where he got to the finals like 9 straight times.
Think about that.
Yeah.
Although Jordan does it his 6 full years, he does 6 in a row of full years because he plays baseball and then he does the partial season.
And that's part of the thing with Jordan is he took a year and a half off. So yeah, LeBron's longevity definitely overall is better, but definitely have seen a good amount of YouTube videos of Jordan where at his peak, totally fair to say Jordan.
Number 4.
I think this is a little bit of a tier step up here where the next 4 guys are in a tier of their own. And number 4 is Andrew Wiggins. We talked about Leo Rautins, how he was this big deal, big prospect from Toronto. It was a many, many years and decades before I would say the next one came, and that was Andrew Wiggins. And Wiggins was the number 1 player in his class, including America, and played at Vaughan before he went over to the States for prep school. But, one thing I found in my book that honestly I didn't quite realize was the impact he had on this generation of players. Like, he's only a few years older than Shea and Jamal Murray and Dylan Brooks and RJ Barrett, but those guys spoke to me about the impact that Wiggins had on them. Seeing the fact that the number 1 player was from Toronto, was down the street. In many cases, they went to games at Vaughan and watched him or played against, his teams. And so he had a really big impact on showing guys from this generation that it was possible. And he was billed as like the next LeBron, which didn't happen. But, we can't lose the fact that Andrew Wiggins was an all-star, was an NBA champion, first Canadian-born player to 10,000 points. Just has had a really good career, and it continues now with the Miami Heat. I think everywhere he goes, he really endears himself to the fan bases over there, because he's kind of like, no-nonsense professional, and Canadian team few times he's played for as well, even though he gets some heat for that. But yeah, Andrew Wiggins.
Now there's 2 places I got to go before the top 3. One is maybe this is a good time to introduce the Carter effect.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, the Carter effect, I'm sure people know about it in terms of when Vince Carter came to the Raptors. And again, goes back to our thing with the Grizzlies, why they didn't survive. They never had a player anywhere close to Carter. And Carter definitely helped the Raptors not just survive, but become this really revered franchise, because he was drafted, I think, in 98 and just became this must-see TV guy who would just pull off incredible feats every time he stepped on the court. It was just like, there was a time during I think it was the 2000 All-Star where you had to go and put your ballots in a box in the arena. There was no online stuff, and he was the ultimate in the whole NBA. He was the number 1 vote getter,
which is unbelievable playing here in Toronto.
Right. So he inspired guys like Andrew Wiggins for sure, because they saw in him this guy who looked like them, playing for the Raptors, looking really cool, making a career in basketball, and that inspired a lot of young kids, of course, in Toronto and in Canada to pick up the game, and that was part of it. And I think a lot of people knew that. And in the book, I definitely wanted to highlight that, but I also wanted to highlight like what happens once you're inspired. That's great, but then you still need an infrastructure to do that. We've been inspired by great players for a long time, but we never kind of had the ability to make it to the pros because guys picked up the game too late. They didn't have the right skill trainers. They didn't have the right platforms to showcase themselves. So that the Vince is part of it, and he gets a lot of credit. I also think, I tried to give credit to the people who also kind of built the infrastructure for the next stage of Canadian basketball.
And then another point to raise, a little less happy point, is that when we look at our Canadian men and women's hockey teams, we assume our best players are going to represent the country. Like there's never a discussion in will Connor McDavid play in the Olympics? Right? It's not even a discussion. So talk radio, sit down. Okay, they're all, if they're healthy, they're going to be there. Yeah. But what is it with NBA stars and their hesitancy at times, many of them, to play for Canada?
Yeah, I mean, it's a really good question, and I think, to be honest, if people really are curious about that, I would say you got to read the book, because the book really, I would say, it was one of the central questions that I tried to answer, is how come for so long we haven't been able to get our best players to play. And I think the biggest thing is it comes down to kind of the culture of it. And, Hockey Canada, Team Canada, you're expected to win gold. You're expected to, play with all the best players. And there's kind of this building effect that comes with that, right? It's like, if that's the case, it's only going to create better and better teams. Whereas in Canada basketball's case, there were a lot of problems with the organization that I detail in the book, whether it was funding, whether it was like a biased selection process where guys didn't feel like they were getting a fair shot to play, whether it was not the right coaches in the building, or whether the bad performance staffs to keep them healthy. All these things built to a point where people kind of looked at the organization as a bit of a joke, a bit of a mom and pop shop, not something serious. And that created this kind of lingering effect where the best guys didn't play. They weren't winning. They didn't want to go and have this big load on their shoulders where they weren't going to be playing with other winning players, and on and on. And it really didn't start to change until this generation. This is the first generation of NBA players who are consistently representing the national team. And, yeah, long story short, that's a bit
so
of
many times as a fan of the Canadian men's basketball program, I would we'd all say, like, if our best players actually played, we would be absolutely a medal contender, but it was rarely the case. But one of the players, here's a teaser. So we got 3 to go. One of them has the Canadian record for the most FIBA games played. That's a teaser. So one of these 3 chaps we're going to talk about did come out and represent his country. So let's get to number 3.
Number 3. It's not this guy, unfortunately, but a great player nonetheless. Number 3 is Jamal Murray. Probably gets overshadowed a little bit coming up in the same era as someone else who we'll talk about, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. But
spoiler alert,
he's on the list. Yeah. So he might get overshadowed a little bit in that regard, but Jamal Murray is I don't know what there is to say about him. He's one of the best point guards in the NBA. He is an NBA champion with the Denver Nuggets, the second best player on that team on that run. Obviously, he does play with one of the best players in the world in Nikola Jokic, and so that comes with it's a great job to have, but it also comes with a lot of responsibility. And I think Jokic loves having a point guard like Jamal Murray. And, on top of winning an NBA championship, Jamal has played for the national team. In 2015, he played for the Pan Am Games, and at that time, he was just coming out of high school, and he had this incredible performance that people will remember against Team USA, where he dropped 22 points in the fourth quarter and overtime to beat USA, and Canada went on to win the silver medal in that tournament. And there's also the impact Jamal has had kind of off the court, I guess you could say, in terms of the chapter I wrote about him in the book really focuses on the prep high school scene in Canada now, and how he was really one of the foundational parts of that. He was one of the first guys to decide to stay in Canada for his whole high school career, went to Orangeville Prep, and from there he got a scholarship to Kentucky and went to the NBA. And that showed a lot of Canadians that it's possible to stay home from all of high school. And so that impact, I don't think, can be overstated with Jamal Murray.
Okay, so 2 to go. I think there's debates at home trying to guess who's 1 and 2, because I actually, before I got your list, I was wondering who's 1 and 2 on this list, and I knew who the top 2 were going to be, obviously. Right. But without further ado, number 2,
Steve Nash. Woo! Yeah,
he's my age, by the way, so shout out to Steve Nash.
It's funny, like, both Steve Nash and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander have given the other one credit and said, like, Shai has said, like, I still got room to catch up to Steve, and Steve has said, no, he's above me. So, that's
so Canadian of
exactly, that humble Canadian attitude. But, this is my list, and I went with Steve Nash at number 2. look, in terms of like his longevity, of course, he's the number one. In terms of his impact on the game of basketball, of course, he's the number one. He's had a bigger impact than most people in the world. I mean, the 7 seconds or less Suns changed basketball, changed the NBA, brought speed, brought three-point shooting into it, brought all these things that now are very familiar in the league. But back then, Steve was kind of this perfect point guard to introduce into a league that was kind of getting a little bit boring, a lot of one-on-one play, a lot of slow play. He changed it.
I remember this. So I have a child who's 23 and another who's 21. And I remember buying tickets because Steve Nash was coming to play the Raptors and telling my kids at the time that you need to see live the greatest Canadian basketball player of all time. Yeah. And I didn't know how much time there might be left. But the joke is, and the kids reminded me, is like, we went to this game. We're going to see Steve Nash before it's too late. And he played several more years. Like we had a lot more chances to do it. But he not only was Steve Nash born in 74, but he played 74 official FIBA games. That is number one.
Yeah.
I wonder, I got this from your book, but I hate to put you on the spot here, but only 2 Canadian players have played more than 70 FIBA games. Can you name the other player who played over 70 games?
Oh, Jay Triano.
No, good guess. That's 66. He's in third. There's somebody between Jay Triano, who I'm glad we finally mentioned here, and Steve Nash.
Okay. Jay Triano and Steve Nash, second all time.
Putting you on the spot here. This gentleman
give me an
has
era. Give me an era.
Early enough that I don't. So the initials are EP.
Eli Pasquale.
Yeah,
that's a good one.
So 73. He only had Steve Nash only had one more official FIBA game than Eli.
Wow.
All these fun facts and more in your wonderful book, by the way, because, I mean, we've blown it, but I'm still going to say number one because that's the most exciting number to call. But I got to say, you did a great job, and I hope we get more books out of you, man. I really enjoyed this read.
I appreciate it. Yeah, it was a really fun project for me, honestly. It was challenging, but I learned a ton about Canadian basketball and all these players and all these stories. And I thought, like, part of it always for me was we don't do such a great job of highlighting our history, especially in a sport like basketball, but really in a lot of areas of Canadian culture. And
well, part of the problem is it's called the golden generation, but we're all still waiting for that gold.
That is part of the problem, sure. But I yes, and you know, I hope that was going to come in 24, right. Something better. But no, I did want to highlight the history so that it wouldn't be lost as AI takes over whatever Google used to be. And now you search up like a guy who you want to learn more about. I find it's very harder and harder to kind of find good cover stories, profiles, all that kind of stuff. And
agreed.
I wanted to put like this kind of encyclopedia together where people could just go and look up a name and look up their history.
I'll say a few. Like we mentioned Jay Triano finally. Like, you know, his fingerprints are all over this thing. But Michael Meeks or Sherman Hamilton or RJ's dad, Rowan Barrett. Like these are guys that were key to the national team that are all over your book. So
yeah, and the book is kind of split up into 2 parts. And the first is like about the Trailblazers, and the second is kind of about the generation who now we know, but definitely kind of wanted to shed a spotlight on those guys who you mentioned who don't get a lot of attention, but who really did help create the generation that is today, made it possible because they learned, they brought their experiences back, and they helped shape the new kind of ecosystem.
And what a perfect segue. Everyone is just like tingling with anticipation. They have no idea who's at number one, but here we go. The number one Canadian basketball player of all time is
Rick Fox. No, no, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. I think he passed Nash for me when he won the championship last season. Obviously, it was something, an elusive thing for Nash that he couldn't find. And Shai, before 27 years of age, has won an MVP, a finals MVP, a championship. He's a scoring leader. His resume is quite insane at this point. And for me, like, again, I would say when it came to a tiebreaker between Nash and Shai, it really was the era they came up in. You know, Steve is a 2-time MVP, but I think in that era, there was less competition. I think when you look at this era, it's Jokic, it's Giannis, it's Steph, it's Harden, it's Kawhi, it's there's just so much more talent in the league than there ever has been. And so for Shai to be the best player in the league right now, I just kind of think that deserves a little bit of a tiebreaker, I guess.
And he's in rarefied air, right? Because what did he win? Like, he won last year? Regular season MVP, playoff MVP, championship, obviously.
Yeah, are you talking about that commercial that NBA Canada does where they say he won MVP, Western Conference Finals MVP, and Finals MVP, the first to ever do it, which is technically true, but the Western Conference MVP came into effect 2 years ago, so it's not.
Never let the facts get in the way of a good story.
Yeah.
Print the legend. But you're not printing the legend in your new book here. I urge all the FOTMs who have even a remote interest in basketball or even just sports or even just Canadianity. It's called The Golden Generation, How Canada Became a Basketball Powerhouse. How do you want people to... Do you care how they buy it, or do you how would you
No, I mean, it's on Amazon, it's on Indigo, it's at your local bookstores. Totally up to you. But yeah, the holidays are definitely right around the corner, and it makes for a good present for any kind of sports fan in your life. Only $25, and so I appreciate the support, and I hope people enjoy it.
Well, it was a pleasure meeting you. You're now an FOTM. That means friend of Toronto Mike. We're going to take a picture by a Toronto tree. But even though you just birthed this fine new book, I'm curious if you have any inkling of what the next book might be about.
No, I at least not ready to say it to the public yet. But who knows? It's right now, I will say writing a book is a big challenge. So gonna ease up out of the book world for a little bit, but yeah, I do have some ideas, and maybe down the line.
But it'll be basketball themed, likely.
I think so. Yeah.
It's not. You're not gonna surprise us with like the book on the 2025 Toronto Blue Jay almost World Series champions.
No, I always make jokes with my friends when they're like, "What are you doing next?" I'll be like, "Yeah, I'm gonna write about the war, in XYZ." But no, I'm not ready to dive
Throw him a curveball
to the politic world.
Hey, did we shout out Lou Dort? I can't remember. Did we do that Did we do that?
I think I gave. Yeah, he was an honorable mention for sure.
Because I know he would make I think he'd make a lot of people's top 10.
He would. Yeah.
All right, you did a great job. I was thoroughly entertained. We're gonna get some of these young guns on Toronto Mike. Enough of this same old. But even the old gun, I just want to shout out Dave Feschuk, who has politely declined his Toronto Mike invitation. Maybe Dave Feschuk will reconsider.
Maybe he's an East Ender.
Won't cross Yonge Street. I don't blame him. And also, Phil Scrubb played 55 games for Canada. I just want to shout him out, too. I'm looking at this list. There's a guy here, I'm not even sure I know who he is, even though I was reading about him. Gerald Kaznowski.
Kaznowski, yeah. Olden days. I mean, I don't really know that much about
63 games for Canada.
Yep. The thing, the guys who really dominate that all-time list are older, because back then the group stayed together a lot more. So it was year after year after year, and now it's the NBA guys probably now will play every 3 or 4 years with the Olympics around, but not like this year, for example.
And that brings us to the end of our 1,806th show. Get your butts to Palma's Kitchen on Saturday. That's TMLX 21. Be there. Go to TorontoMike.com for all your Toronto Mike needs. Much love to all who made this possible. That's Retro Festive, Great Lakes Brewery. You got your beer here. Palma Pasta. Don't leave without your lasagna. Nick Ieni's, Kindling, RecycleMyElectronics.ca, Blue Sky Agency, and of course Ridley Funeral Home. So tomorrow is Dave Hodge, his top 100 songs of 2025. Friday is Stu Stone. He's probably going to let me have it because I bailed on this Jays team in April. Can't wait for that. And of course, Saturday we're recording live from Palma's Kitchen for TMLX 21. So that's your schedule the rest of the week. See you all then.